One thing we're going to talk a bit about today is human agency in the age of AI. And first, I'd like to thank Kalish for arranging this space for us. He's right back here. I want to thank the people who've been on this journey. This started with over a lunch with John Hagel back here and Gary Bowles over here. And we were talking about social media and how it warped our view of the world. And here's AI coming. What can we do about it? And it was a catalyst for us to bring other people into the conversation. This was about a year ago. And since then, we brought a number of other people into the core conversation, and we're here to ask for you to bring your voice into the conversation. And we sort of look at this as an alpha. This is a design charrette. It's here to encourage your participation. And we'll get back together in February and do a beta. And our hope is by April, we'll be in a better position to work with Tim from KQED and bring the Bay Area community into the conversation. So our view of human agency in the age of AI, and I just want to do a little bit of a set because we're all going to interpret this in our own voice. And we've been through this progression. I've been in the Valley since before the PC was here. So I had the fortune of seeing the impact of technology on humanity. And a frustration during this whole journey is we get fixated in solving problems, and this Valley has done an extraordinary job with that. And many times it takes us away from understanding the customer, the human voice, and what we want to get out of it. So today we're going to explore that in a number of ways. So if you look at the progression from television to computers to social media, here is AI. It's a co-creation opportunity, and we need to really amplify the voice of human agency. And recognizing that if we went around the room and asked people what that meant, we get a lot of different definitions of it because we all live different lives, came from different journeys, and have arrived at this moment at a very different point in time. We all know AI is moving so fast. If we don't declare a position as to what we want out of it, it's naturally going to follow the same path as social media. So I wanted to share the journey that gets here. If you look in the earlier days, you had people sitting around a television, and when they were watching television, they didn't participate, they consumed it. But the thing that happened is there was relationships. People were connected. And if you look through the story I'm going to share, we've distanced ourselves from connecting. COVID sure didn't help with that. Social media, everyone's looking at their screens an average of 3 hours a day. And we've lost that connection. And this journey in human agency, which now has a couple of dozen people involved, the communication, the relationship, what we're discovering together is a new way of learning. And there are things that pop out of that individually we wouldn't have thought about. So we've lived through this journey that television was something we look at, and then we move into the computer. Here comes the computer. The computer comes along, and all of a sudden we have a personal way of engaging. And what did we do? It gave us all a little more identity. For the first time, technology amplified individual intent. And we expanded on that with the internet. So this is the first 4 nodes of the internet. I had the good fortune of being exposed to that when I went to UC Santa Barbara. And I'll share it didn't turn out the way I had hoped it would. And that's one reason that I'm standing here, is that was a few decades ago. And I've watched this progression happen, and it's lost sight of what this connectivity could mean to us. Are we in singularity? I'll ask Gary. That's a long question to answer, but here comes the internet. So, we start looking at how computers come together. I'll point out at this point, one of our founding co-founders of this is John Seeley Brown, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. He was responsible at Xerox PARC for the first PCs, the first Windows. That's where Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, Bill Gates took his ideas and built their companies from it. And John, there'll be some anecdotes from John as we go through the day. He's sorry he couldn't join in. I'll share in a moment how to get a view of John's interpretation of this. And JSB partnered with John Hagel for a number of years, and we'll talk about some of the reflections from that. So we move on from the computer, we get into social media. Attention extraction. I can't tell you how many people I know who had careers, spent decades, and in the last few years woke up and said, what have we done? Someone that Andy introduced me to at Electronic Arts, retired when he recognized, well, what I'm doing, I'm building a mobile gaming experience to get someone's attention, more attention, more attention. Someone who founded Match.com said, what did I do? Someone that ran content at Facebook, what did I do? So people recognize, social media became clickbait. It took us away from this experience, being together in relationships. So if we go to the next one, here we are talking about how we go from users to stewards. And this is what we're going to spend our time exploring today. Do we have the answer? No, we don't. But we know AI is moving so fast that there are people who are going to convince the public we have the answer. It's OpenAI, it's Anthropic, it's LLMs. But that's taking technology and doing a good job of solving problems and improving on it, but it loses the human element of it. And so our hope is that we start building a movement, a voice that we can carry forward. And this, just to give some thoughts about what is human touch. As I said earlier, describing what humanity is not an easy, simple thing. We all as individuals have a lifelong journey of figuring that out. We have faith and religions that help guide people. We have people who find other means in which to do that. But at the core of it is, how do we determine what human agency might be defined as so we know it when we see it and we can amplify it when we feel it can add value? So today we're going to talk about the handshake. And it's not saying this is about AI. This is about what we want out of AI. We're going to show some examples today of things that people are doing to explore that. We're going to break into groups to get people's feedback. And I think we have a great cross-section of people. Hopefully during lunch, everyone will get to know each other, and during the breakout sessions as well. And most important is, we have a lot of different perspectives to understand and try to synthesize. And so we'll be bringing that together as we go through the day. And a big part of this is thinking through it from what gives you hope, what's interesting to you, what are you afraid of? And I wanted to mention a couple of things on that front because I think we lose sight of it. Fear. People are worried it's going to take their jobs, and it may. What is it going to look like on the other side? Don't know. That's frightful. And historically, this is a point in history that usually there's a lot of disruption in society. when new technology has gotten here where the fear is greater than the opportunity to do something about it. On that front, I want to share with people the fact that China does not have the same constraints that we do. In China, they don't have an infrastructure. In the US, we got to deal with the infrastructure because there are a lot of people who want to make sure that infrastructure continues to generate income. We have the corporate structure that's doing more of that. In China, they don't need to build the infrastructure to support what was built before. They can build it without that constraint. So they're going to move a lot faster than we are, and that's coming. It's another reason that we need to figure out how to stake a place that human agency can have an impact. And then we're going to explore what are surprising futures. What are things that came up that was unexpected? And I think one really important one was with Jorge, who you'll meet today, and his work at ASU, and working with the students and having the surprise that we're all sitting here at the same level. It's not a student and teachers, we're all doing this at the same time. And you'll hear a thread through this about intergenerational perspectives, because this is moving so fast. We don't have time for this to go through the same progression that it has in the past. We need to figure out how to understand the voice of Gen Z, how to amplify that, and how to bring them their voice into this. In most companies, there are 5 generations of workers. We've got to bridge in that compression that's taking place. So today we're going to go through a set of narratives and stories, and the narrative is what we take away and share. The stories are the things that support that, and we'll talk more about this later.